Welcome to the first lesson of this course. The Kali Linux, the tool that we are going to use here in the setup. So the very first part is to set up the Kali Linux, download the Kali Linux, and we will walk through all of the processes from this lesson. So going to first one, that is the kali.org. We can now see and download every version of the Kali Linux. Kali Linux is the most advanced penetration testing platform distribution for nowadays. Many penetration testers, even the hackers, malicious hackers, also use the Kali Linux. But in order to master the Kali Linux, you need to know the basics of the Kali Linux. And hence, this course is just for the beginners who is new for the Kali Linux or aspiring hackers for bug bounty hunting or the penetration testing, simply hacking. Alright, so now let's start downloading the Kali Linux, and then we will move to download and install the VirtualBox in which it will be running. So for this course, I am going to use the VirtualBox and the live version of the Kali Linux that will not be installed on the disk. So let's see, and we will then explain what the most important part for the Kali Linux is. Either it is live or they installed on the system. Both cases are simple and completely different, but you can use according to your choice, as this is the subjective part. So moving to the first, this is the download. Going to download here. We can see the image name, that is the ISO file that will be, and most of you will be aware about that, what is the ISO file and the installers. So here are the two versions that you can download from, like the torrent and the direct images. So moving back to what we are going to use, but let's first walk through of all of the versions of the Kali Linux. So we can see here this is the VMware, VirtualBox, and all these are the direct images. You don't need to configure, just put it out inside the VirtualBox and it will be running without any much settings. We can also use the and download the ARM images that will be running on the some limited mobile devices like the iPads and not exactly the iPads, but on some Nexus devices. We can see here by going to, but before going to see that, let's download the 64-bit installer or the live. So in both of these versions, I am going to choose for the live one, because this is the important part to run the live operating system, and then once you close it, every settings will be erased, every tracks will be erased. So this is the best part for the hackers or newcomers who is going to be aspiring hackers first. So I just recommend you to use the live version, because any settings you mess up with inside the Kali Linux, you can just reverse that all of the processes by just simply turning and shutting down the operating system and then just restart it. So I don't recommend to install directly on your system, because sometimes it is also critical for your system once you are not going to install it properly, because it will completely erase the master boot record, that is the MBR of your system. So we can go to Kali Linux live here and it will be downloaded. Now let's see other images that you can download from the ARM images or install on some of the details, like we can see here. We can see also the Kali Linux Net Hunter. Mostly it is called Net Hunter, that will be installed on the devices, mobile devices. So we can see here Nexus Mini, Nexus 10 tablet and Nexus 5 mobile. And most of these might be outdated platform. You will find these devices nowhere. But yeah, sometimes you can find it refurbished conditions. So I'm not going to explain that all, because this is for using Kali Linux Net Hunter or on the mobile devices on the go. So I don't think it will be useful too much while you are going for the penetration testing or using in certain situations. Alright, so that has been downloaded now, and moving to the VirtualBox. This is also the pre-filled form that we can download and install the ISO images over that VirtualBox. So here is the latest version, that is 6.1, and you can just download it and install inside your system. For the platform, I'm going to use this in the MacBook latest version. So that might not create any critical situations where you will find yourself stuck if you are using in a Windows environment or using directly inside the Linux box. But this is recommended to use over the Windows or the Mac, not over the Linux. But if you are using the Linux, just prefer for the Ubuntu. So that's all for the installation. All this has been installed. Now coming to the VirtualBox and how these settings will be taking effect once it is opened. So as I have already downloaded here, we can see this is up and running, and some of the customizations have already been done here. Now we will also take it to that walkthrough and do customizations, create some shortcut commands so that use in super fast, easy way, like the hackers or the shown in the movies. So that customizations are easy part, and that is best part that you can always find yourself useful while using in too super fast. Alright, let it be. Now I am going to install one new virtual machine. So once you install the VirtualBox, you will find this interface. This is the simple one. Create the new. We can see here the new. Control N is a shortcut for that. Now we will start from here, like putting up everything, and once you put the Linux, it will automatically be selected like the type Linux, and the version is that's for 64-bit. We do not need to do anything in this case, just continue after putting the name. Alright, so there is something issues with that. I have already installed, so I'm going to use the other folder here. So untitled will be there. Continue. Alright, so now this is the memory size that you will require to allocate for the Kali Linux, and this is recommended to assign the memory size as much as possible, because this will going to create some of the bugs or some of the lagging inside the system, and you will not going to like it once it is lagging your system while you are in the middle of the hacking or penetration testing. So this is recommended that you have the host system, that is the Windows or the Mac or the Linux, for at least 8 GB of RAM, and so that you can assign at least 3 gigabytes of RAM for the VirtualBox or the Kali Linux in this case, because this is the guest operating system in this case. Alright, so now I am assigning this particular Kali Linux image operating system for 3 gigabytes of RAM, so that it will not create any issues, and click next. You will find it the create a virtual hard disk now. So this is the by default, just create. I do not need to do anything. This is the VirtualBox disk image. This is also the default, will be default for that. Next, this is the dynamically allocated for the fixed size of hard disk files, and okay. Now this is the location and the size of the disk that it is allocated for. So in this case, it is automatically allocated for 8 GB. It is recommended to increase it to at least 20 GB for the ease of use and super fluent uses of the Kali Linux, so that once you download anything, or if you are going to download any other applications and install it inside the Kali Linux, you will not find yourself that the system has the less disk and you can't install it exactly. So the 20 GB is the best here, so adjust it to 20 GB, around 20 GB. It is no matter to exactly bin 20 GB. Now create this and it's all done. Now you will find the information about the Kali Linux that you have selected for and created for the virtual machine here. So this is the information like the operating system, system memory that you have allocated, acceleration for the virtualization, and all that information. But the most important part is is for setting that you are going to change that, and this is the best part. Once it is done incorrectly, you are going to find yourself that it is not going to work. So this is the basics. We do not need to change here. If you want, you can change the name as per your choice. Here is the advanced. We can share the clipboard bidirectional so that you can copy and paste from host to guest, guest to host in the both of the direction. That is why it is bidirectional. Moving to description, there is nothing. We can type here any description and save it for future reference. Disk encryption is not required in this case for Kali Linux. It is useful in some other cases where some sensitive information are stored on the virtualization or the guest OS. Alright, so moving directly to the storage, that is the location where you need to provide the Kali Linux downloaded images. So this is the storage here, and at the first that is the controller ID, and the second is the Kali Linux VDI. So this will be automatically created as this is created by the VirtualBox. In this case here, VirtualBox disk image, that is the VDI. We need to go to add optical drive. So here is the optical drive. We need to select the ISO file that we have downloaded from the kali.org website, and if this is not available here, we can search it out from here and just choose it, and we can create another links as well. But before going to make it okay and done, going to display settings. This is also recommended for the video memories, because that will be the graphically representing and providing the virtual machine for the best video experiences and the memory experiences of the VirtualBox. So this is recommended to adjust as much as possible until your host system is not having any issues, so that you are going to use the Kali Linux. That's the best part. We can also enable the 3D acceleration. All these settings are according to my recommendations, as I always use these and I don't find anything issues. So that is why I recommend everyone to use the 3D acceleration for the graphics controllers and so on. Remote display is nothing for. Recording is for enable recording on the target system. I mean to say the Kali Linux here. So we can enable and disable as well. Alright, so everything done for the display. Now move to the system. Here we can see the motherboard processor that you are going to allocate. In some of the cases, you will find your system have the more cores or the processor cores that you are going to allocate for. So we can see the green part here, green color and the red color. We can't go after the red color. That will create something messy or some of the issues. We can adjust this till the green part. Alright, so that is only for that. We can also enable the extended features, that is the PAE and the nested VT. That is the virtualization kind of advanced stuff. So we can also enable both of these things. Moving to network adapters. We can provide the network adapters so that although using the NAT, that is the network address translation in full form, is the best part, so that no one can connect to the Kali Linux. But in some of the cases, if you are going to use the Metasploit, you are going to use the bridged adapter. That will be the best setting. And this will use the host Wi-Fi adapter. In this case, this is the EN0, that is the ETS0 in Windows or something like that. So this is the Wi-Fi that it will be using from the host system directly. And we can communicate from the host to guest, guest to host, and from the guest, that is the Kali Linux, to the outside network. So this is the best part we can change. You can also change the NAT adapter. There will be no any conflict or no any issues. We can also use host only adapter, NAT network, generic driver, but these are of no use and no values in this case of the Kali Linux. Only use the NAT adapter and the bridge adapter. There are an adapter 2 as this will be connected to the host system. So once you're going to use the external Wi-Fi or the wired network, that like the LAN cable RJ45, then there will be other adapters too. We can select it for that custom settings. Going to port, there is nothing to do with that. Shared folder. This is the shared folder that will be the all of the accessible folders from the host to guest will be saved to in this shared folder. We can provide the any folder here, like just git add and just done for the path. Just provide the path and there will be okay. Going to user interface, there is nothing to do. This user interface is shown on the lower part of the virtual machine that you are running on. So there is nothing issues with that. We can leave it out. Alright, so every setting have been done. Now, as I have already using and running this, I am going to remove this completely. And that's all. Now we can see every settings as we have configured in here in the right pane. We can also click on this show, and the running application running Kali Linux on the virtualization will be opened. Alright, so now we are on the Kali Linux. It's all have been installed and it's have been done. So that's all for this lesson. We will move to next lesson, as this lesson will be more longer if I'm going to explain something more about the Kali Linux here. So for the separate lesson, let's jump to the next lessons and just install it on your VirtualBox virtualization according to the shown as I installed here, and then we will move to another lesson. Then that will be the best part. See you in the next lessons. Thank you.